Hey, R2. Have you seen Independence Day 2? No? Good for you. You might not want to waste your time. Trust me, Star Wars is in no threat of being dethroned for best sci-fi movie series. Yeah, I guess I could say that. Fantasy sci-fi, right? I don't know. Thank you, R2. We'll talk to you later. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another Geek Corner. I am John Lorden. Before we talk about Independence Day Resurgence, which for some reason just doesn't strike me as a great title, but maybe that's fitting. I did just want to thank everyone. I don't want to get into it too much because I'm planning on talking to you guys a lot more about it tomorrow, but it's just been overwhelming, the support from you guys. And it's been great to find another way that we are all common, that something that brings us all together like that. And I just did not expect something like that happening in my life to bring the type of response that it did. But that's a new part of me having all of you guys out there, and I really, really appreciate it. So, but more of that tomorrow. For today, because it is the 4th of July, for all of you Americans out there, happy 4th. I did go out and watched Independence Day Resurgence yesterday, and let me just say that the first Independence Day, I didn't feel like it was incredibly groundbreaking, but I did feel like it was a fun experience. It was worthwhile. I watched it when it came to video. I watched it a few more times. It was just a good, fun movie, and it's one of the few movies that I ever stood in line for. I went to see it, if I remember right, I think it opened on like July 2nd or something, 1996, and I went to see it that night and had to stand in line for like 2 hours, through the previous screening to make sure that I had gotten into the theater. This is before assigned seats, so that I could have decent seats to watch the movie. So I stood in line for quite a bit, and I do remember just a few small hints of, oh man, I just wish this was just a little bit better. But I know, I remember I did enjoy it. Will Smith really helps bring that movie to light. Jeff Goldblum, he is just an amazing, quirky actor that I felt like I could watch do just about anything. I mean, seriously, I felt like he's the type of guy that'd be interesting to watch if he was just reading out of a dictionary. I might have a different opinion about that after this last Independence Day film. But I recognized even the first time going into it that there was nothing really original. I mean, the alien designs look largely copied from Alien. The spaceship designs, all of that looks pretty much like it's out of H.R. Geiger, that type of artwork. And even the story structure for the original Independence Day, if you watched the V television miniseries or TV series, the story structure was nothing compared to V, but did seem like it was a bit of maybe a slight rip-off of that type of storytelling. Multiple characters, where they all those storylines weave together, and that's something that the first movie actually did pull off. They had all these characters in different places. At the start of the movie, you're just being thrown so much character interaction from different people. You're like, what the heck is this? How's this all going to fit together? But they did bring it all together by the end of the movie. You saw these characters were important to these people. These characters had to join these to start a uprising to try to fight the aliens back down. So it was really, really pretty well done for what I consider being a minor ripoff of two other main sci-fi properties, being Alien and V. All that being said, we now fast forward 20 years and the sequel to Independence Day finally comes out. Now, I don't know if the timing of this is good. I personally don't think it is. I think the sequel is at least 10 years too late. When I first saw the trailers for it, I had just this feeling of like, oh my God, they're trotting this one back at, like, why? Just let it be. The first movie kind of pulled it off. Why are you doing this now after 20 years? Is this story really, does it need to be told? So I had some very strong reservations right from the start. I also was working at 20th Century Fox when this whole Independence Day thing, no, I wound up working there later, sorry. I didn't start there until the following year, if I remember right, 1997. But I remember hearing buzz of a sequel. There was constantly this churn of there's going to be a sequel, and I'd hear some little pieces of story ideas. I don't know if those were legit or not, but seriously, those were way better ideas than what we actually wound up with in this sequel. I'll share with you guys one of them that I remember. One of them was that the aliens, when they came here and they were actually obliterating our planet with those giant beams out of those kind of motherships, that they weren't actually just damaging the planet, that they were awakening aliens that had been stored here previously under the Earth's crust. And I think that was a sequel idea, that basically the sequel would go into those beams did wake those things up, but they hadn't come out yet, and now that they were going to attack Earth literally from inside itself, it was going to be a much harder battle. Like I said, there were so many rumors around back in those days. I don't know if that was legit or not, but that's a pretty compelling story to me. What we get in the Independence Day sequel is the aliens are back. There's one that's bigger and badder, looks pretty much exactly the same as all the rest. But now there's also another alien species, which surprisingly reminded me of a character from the Halo universe, kind of guilty spark for any of you that are familiar with Halo. This kind of all-knowing orb. I don't know. Minor spoiler there, by the way. I probably should have said that at the start of this. There's going to be minor spoilings sprinkled all throughout this video. It's not major, but that's a little bit of a reveal. Brent Spiner is brought back in this, and he was pretty much a cameo in the first one, only had a few scenes. One particular scene where he is, an alien's tentacle is like wrapped around his throat, and he's knocked up against the glass, and all of a sudden the alien is communicating through him, is probably one of the most memorable scenes from the first movie. And in a very bizarre way, they recreate that scene in the second movie, and you just see it coming from a mile away. And once again, I just had this feeling of, whoa, why? Why are they doing this way? Why are you completely retreading a scene from the first movie? I mean, it's just, we saw that already. And quite honestly, it's done better in the first movie. I don't know. It was just a head shaker. R2 would have been shaking his head if he was sitting with me in the theater. And there was so much green screen use. It was ridiculous. The production values on this film are not good. I hope they didn't spend more than like 50 or 60 million on it, because it is not good. At times, I felt like I was watching a movie that was made for the Sci-Fi Channel, or definitely television. And even in terms of the content, the way that it once again tries to go into these multiple people, but it fails to bring it all together, completely fails to bring it all together. And ultimately what you wind up with is this movie that has a bunch of kind of has-been actors. I hate to say it. Jeff Goldblum is pretty much uninteresting in it, and I've never had that feeling about him before. And a bunch of new actors that are just really not that talented. Liam Hemsworth does a really good job. He's probably the one likable piece of this whole movie. And all of the other, quote, young cast, they're just horrible actors. Or either that or they're not being directed well. There's a scene in particular where a family member dies, and the person that has to cope with that family member dying does the traditional no scream, and it's like they couldn't even get a good take from him, so they don't show his face. He never has a tear in his eye. There's just no emotion at all about a very significant family member dying. And it never comes back in the rest of the movie. All of a sudden he's just back to normal, and hey, we're flying around. I don't know. And this movie, since it's 20 years later, they're now having our technology fused with alien technology. And it was just done in one of the laziest ways that you could imagine. Oh, we still have helicopters, but now they don't have propellers. They just have these big kind of blue, greenish, shiny balls near the top where the helicopter rotor would be. But other than that, it's designed exactly like a traditional helicopter. What? What? Now our jet planes, yeah, well, they still pretty much look like the same jets that we've been seeing ever since, even all the way back to Top Gun, but now they have blue shiny orbs just kind of lined up on the bottom of them. What? Why? I don't get it. The design on this film is not good. And then the aliens craft, for some reason, the fighter craft that are pretty memorable from the first movie, those have been modified, and now they look almost like an exact ripoff of Cylon ships from the Battlestar Galactica universe. Man, I'm starting to think that Hollywood is starting to make what I consider disposable movies. Movies that they do not intend you to watch again, because if they do make a movie that you want to watch again, that might hit into their sale of their next upcoming movie. I mean, think about this. If you think about last year, for example, how many of those movies are you really going to watch again? I think, Star Wars Episode 7, definitely. I've already watched it a couple times since. Deadpool, certainly. I'll certainly watch that again. Captain America Civil War, maybe I'll watch it again. Wasn't one of my favorites. It's definitely not going to be a go-to for me in terms of the Marvel Universe. It's pretty thin, and here's just a thought. I have no idea if this is legit at all, but what if they were making movies just good enough so that you would go see them in the theater once? Maybe some of you would buy the DVDs for other people as gifts or something like that, but no one really watched those movies ever again. Wouldn't that drive us to the theater? Because we'd be saying, God, I want to see a movie, but I don't have any decent movies, at least for the past 5 years. Let's go back to the theater. Or is this all just the rambling of someone that is hitting that age where all of a sudden I'm starting to look at art and say, what the hell are you guys doing? That's not real music, that's just noise. I do not know, but I can tell you it's not just me, because Independence Day Resurgence right now only has a 5.6 on IMDb. If this movie did come out in the 90s, it would have been direct to DVD. It would have never hit the movie theaters. Never, never, never. The story structure is ridiculously weak. The production values, like I said, I felt like 80% of this movie is green screened. Even scenes where you're like, hey, wait, they're just kind of outside. Couldn't they have just shot that somewhere? It still looks fake and green screened. It was really, really cheesy. And the few things that did work really well, like the July 4th Independence Day theme that was in the first one with the big inspirational speech from the president, they kind of try to redo that in the second one, but they don't really give it the proper attention or weight to the situation, and it just falls completely flat. Bill Pullman, it was another performance where you're like, what is... The performances in this movie feel completely phoned in on all levels. And what's weird is you have older actors who you would think appreciate their craft and want to give a good performance. I mean, Jeff Goldblum gives frickin' acting lessons out in the LA area. And they're just phoning it in. You have young actors that you think would be struggling for an opportunity like this. I mean, one of these guys is essentially replacing the Will Smith role. He doesn't do a good job at it at all. But outside of that, it's like they're not trying. It feels like you're just seeing scene after scene where you're like, did they even try? Is this the first time that they ran these lines? What the hell is happening with this movie? There are scenes in this movie where you feel like the editor doesn't even like the movie he's working on. Like there's two specific scenes I can think of where the edits are done so quick and so sloppy. They were like, what's the information we have to get out? Okay, here, these 3 words will do it. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's it. Like they're just crushing through this movie because they don't actually like the content that they captured. It's really, really bizarre. And the first half of the movie is so slow. They have to, for some reason, the few concepts that they try to engineer in this movie, they have to repeat to you 3 frickin' times, and I don't understand why. There's one piece of story thread, and this isn't really a big spoiler, for the Liam Hemsworth character, where he almost accidentally killed Will Smith's son. Well, they have to bring that up in one conversation. Okay, I get it. He almost accidentally killed Will Smith's son. Then he has a conversation with someone else. Oh, it comes up again. So we have to hear almost the exact same dialogue as we already heard once, but from a different person. Oh, he almost killed Will Smith's son. Then Will Smith's son shows up, punches him in the face. Oh, okay, man, he must have almost killed Will Smith's son. Then he's laying in bed and he has to play video feedback and shows the actual incident where he almost killed Will Smith's son. If you're going to show us the actual incident, why did you have to tell us about it 3 times before you showed it? It's like, for some reason, like the writers thought, hey, we're dealing with a really dumb audience here. So anything that's we really need them to get, we have to mention it at least 3 times. And it was insulting at some point. And there's these concepts about what the aliens are doing. I don't want to give this one out because it's a bit more of a spoiler than I want to drop, but there's a reason why the aliens are coming back. The reason is super cheesy, sounds like something from 1950s sci-fi, and the way that they come to the conclusion of what they're doing is completely nonsensical. It's just like all of a sudden one character knows, oh, well, they're here to do this. Okay, why does that character know that? Doesn't matter, he just knows it. Okay, great. Man. So for me, I rate this a 4. Yes, a 4. I will never watch this movie ever again. If I do want to relive the magic that was Independence Day, I will go back to the 1996 film and watch that because it's fun. And that is a big word that is missing from this sequel. This sequel is not fun. No good performances, horrible production values. The one thing that I thought worked well in the first movie that doesn't in the second is all these different characters that they introduce you to never come together in a meaningful way. You don't have that feeling of the whole country has to come together, which is what the 4th of July is about, right? That doesn't happen in this. In this, at most, you get, oh, there's these few military forces and these guys have to come together. That is nowhere near the scale or the story of the first one. The first one's so much better on so many levels that, I don't know how this one even got out. I don't know how they produced this. And I was watching the credits, I was like, all right, look, this has to be done by different people. This can't be Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin. Yep, it's Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin. And I looked into their history, and I got to tell you, I'm not a big fan of a lot of their work. One of them has primarily been working in television, and you can tell because this feels like a TV show that someone just ran to the theater and said, hey, put this on a big screen. The other one has done a bunch of movies that I just don't like. They're kind of these big scale disaster films, and that's just not my cup of tea. But man, kind of disappointing because I was really hoping to be surprised in this film, and I was surprised in all the wrong ways, for all the wrong reasons. So if you have your DVD or even VHS copy of Independence Day 1 and you're looking for something to do on today, the 4th of July, I highly recommend you put that sucker in, stay at home, make some popcorn, and you're probably going to have a much better time than if you try to go out to a theater and sit through this one. It's just way too much Brent Spiner, that's for sure. Thank you all for hanging out with me on this 4th of July. I wish you a great one. For all of you that are Americans out there and all my international friends, thank you so much. I really appreciate each and every one of you that tunes in. Once again, thank you for all the support over this past weekend. You guys have just been amazing. Talk more about that with you on Johnny Vlogs tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.